Today I have a formula that will help you to create super realistic images in MidJourney super easy. You spend some time in MidJourney and you can create some nice artistic things. You can also create images that look like realistic photographs. So here's how you do it. To create images in MidJourney, I have a formula of 7 things that you can fill in how you want and you will create real life looking images. So the first one is just a type of photography. I have a link in the description to this site that I'm showing right here. And here are a lot of examples from different kind of photography that you can use super easy and that you can just copy one that you like and paste it inside. So I'm in MidJourney and can do /imagine and I can paste in the whole process that I have, but we're just going to start with type of photography first. And what I really like, I can go back to the area that we have here. And I really like astrophotography, so you get images from the stars. And here you see there's also a genre of Astrolandscape photography that includes the Milky Way with a slice of Earth in the foreground. So I'm just gonna try that one. I'm gonna do Astrolandscape photography. And we're just gonna take step by step. We're first only gonna do one. And now I'm just gonna press enter. And now we filled in the first part of the 7 steps that you can follow. So the Astrolandscape is loading and I'm super curious. So here on the right, we have an example of how it can look like, how it should look like. So we have a piece of Earth, here's some reflection and the Milky Way in the top. And it actually looks really cool. It looks really nice. So we have the landscape, we have some reflection and the Milky Way in the top. Okay, some have a planet that you cannot find on Earth, but this is already looking really good. And it really looks like an image. So some people add to the back of a prompt like photorealistic or realism and all that stuff. If you just have photography on the beginning of your prompt, then it's all good. After type of photography is lens. I have another site that shows a lot of different lenses. And here in the bottom, they say common lens sizes and specs. And they also give a description. So very wide view of the world, great for landscape photography. They have 35 millimeters, it's wide, 50. This is what the human eye sees in the world. So you can do different lenses to get different type of effects. I go back in MidJourney and put in the full formula. So I'm gonna go back to this one and look if there's portraits, yes. And what is nice of this site is that you have an example image and in the bottom you see, okay, they used a 34mm lens. So I'm just gonna go for portrait photography, 34mm lens. Then I'm very curious what it comes up with. I didn't give a subject or anything. We can always add that later. Now it just should make a portrait image with a 34mm lens. And the portrait photography with a 34mm lens is ready. Looking very good actually. It's looking very realistic. It looks similar because the amount of sharpness that is on this picture in the face, it seems similar as this one. So now we can take it to the next step and we can add the distance. And with distance, for instance, for portrait, I mean that you can say full body or medium width. And the type of photography I'm gonna do again, a portrait. I'm gonna go for a 60mm lens that's super wide. So we have a 60mm lens and we're gonna go for full body because a wide lens should be very good for full body. Let's see, portrait photography, 60mm lens, full body. And we have 2 that are full body. This one not really. They got the camera though. And this one's also good, but the face is a bit distorted. I'm gonna upscale and just see if it looks different after I upscaling. Because this happens with MidJourney, you sometimes need to upscale it before it gets a real good image. But while we're waiting for the upscale, we can go to the next part, and that's the subject. Of course, we want to add our own subject of what we want to see on the image. So I can do /imagine. And I'm gonna go this time for street photography. I'm gonna go for 50mm lens, full body again. And the subject is gonna be man sitting on hood of car. So this is where you're gonna add what you actually want. Do you want a dog? Do you want a person? Do you want a building? All this stuff you can add right here. So it's really easy to create real life looking images if you use this formula. So here I have the street photography, 50mm lens, full body, man sitting on the hood of car. And these are actually really good. The faces are a bit deformed with this one, especially the nose is not perfect, but we know that this is an issue from MidJourney right now. But this one especially, the car looks super real. What you really see is the depth of field, so it's unsharp behind and the person is, that has to do with the 50mm lens. So I think these look pretty good. And this one is upscaled, the portrait photography 60mm lens full body. And now the face is already looking more real. Upscaling definitely can help if you want a face that actually looks realistic. Then the next step is direction. So if I go to /imagine, so I'm gonna go for street photography, 55mm lens, full body, person on skateboard in New York. And here's the direction that you can add. I want it coming towards me, so facing towards me. And this is a formula, so you can do how you want it yourself. Just add a couple things that you want to change. If you don't want to use a certain lens and just see what MidJourney comes up with, that's perfectly fine, you know. Okay, so it's loaded. The street photography, 55mm lens, full body, person on skateboard in New York, facing towards me. These two are not looking at me. This one also not, and this one doesn't have a skateboard. And so that's, of course, with MidJourney, you always have to do a couple of trials. It just looks like a super realistic image. So we already have 5 of the formula, but the next one is super interesting and you can really do a lot. And that is the type of film. The most famous type of film is the Polaroid. So everybody knows how it looks like. It's the square with the image in the middle. That's how you can give it an authentic look. So you have different kind of films that use brown color, all stuff like that. 35mm lens. I'm not gonna do any distance this time. I'm just gonna keep it out because I just want to see what MidJourney comes up with. Subject is gonna be 2 girls celebrating on a birthday. And this time for type of film, I'm gonna use a Polaroid. So here it's loading, the event photography, 35mm lens, 2 girls celebrating on birthday, Polaroid. And this is, it's like it's real, you know, it's like this was really an image that got taken on a birthday party 10 years ago. I'll upscale 1 just to see how it looks because it's still a bit wonky. But then the last thing that you can add to your images is the aspect ratio. And the aspect ratio is just what you use in MidJourney normally. If you want it horizontally, if you want 3:2, if you want it vertically, all this stuff, this you just add in the back. So for instance, for portrait photography, it's very good to do 2:3 because then you have a bit higher than its width. And you can also use 3:2 for the normal horizontal images. So I'm gonna try a black and white portrait, and you can add emotions as well if you want. So I'm gonna do portrait photography with a 50mm lens. Distance, I'm gonna do close-up. Subject is gonna be girl in 30s. So this time for direction, I'm not gonna add what she's looking at, but I'm gonna add how she's looking. So this time I'm gonna do emotive eyes, so that you really get the big eyes. Type of film I'm also not gonna do. And I'm gonna add for aspect. So I'm gonna do 2:3 for the portrait. See how it looks. And this one is upscaled. Okay, and the eyes, especially that's with MidJourney, really the issue that the eyes are very hard to get right. But for the rest, it's super good. It really looks like a Polaroid with the balloons. They are 2 girls on a birthday party. This looks like a real image. It's finished. It's actually not looking bad. And you see the emotive eyes that you really get the big eyes. And the 50mm lens really is made for this portrait photography. And the aspect ratio of 2:3 is much nicer for portraits than any other aspect ratio. While this is loading, I want to show another favorite of mine. What I really like is tilt shift photography. Tilt shift photography is so specific that you don't need to add a lot of things. Amsterdam in sunset. And I want 3:2. You can see that you can just take what you want in this formula, mix it around for however fits it for you. Another one that's super nice from cities is long exposure photography. I'm gonna do long exposure photography, New York at night. Okay, this one is finished and it's looking, I mean, come on, this looks super good. Looks like real people, looks very realistic. And this is how you can create super realistic images with MidJourney. Okay, tilt shift of Amsterdam is ready and this looks super good. This just looks like my city and it's super realistic and it really looks like Amsterdam. This is super cool. And here we have the long exposure photography, New York at night. And this is also looking very, very good because you have the city New York and you have the long lights from the long exposure. These ones also came out very well. I think it's so much fun to create these photos inside MidJourney. It's different than what we normally do, but it's just a lot of fun to experiment with. And with this formula, it's so easy to get it right. Just add a bit there or change it there and you will get amazing results. I have another video showcasing another AI art generator that can do things that MidJourney cannot even do. It's a lot of fun. You can watch it here. And otherwise, see you next video.